Welcome back to Undulations. So we'll talk about a patch that I did for the Kastle drum and Kastle 1.5 in a few minutes. It's been several months since we've been face-to-face like this, and this is a good time to come back because this is coming up on the 3-year anniversary of this channel, and I've done something like, I think it's 81 videos, and so that works out to be about one video every 2 weeks, and so I'd say pretty good average pace. Now, I love making tutorial videos, but it was nice to take a few months off from doing that, and really for the rest of the year, I might not do full-blown tutorials, maybe just some musical pieces, sort of like my Delta Waves videos that I did a while back. Now, this is mainly just because to make a decent and detailed tutorial video, it takes quite a bit of time and effort with the planning and the shooting, and particularly the editing. For example, this is the set of edits from the last tutorial video that I did, which was about my modular pod. So during my time away, I did stuff like travel, visit with family, did stuff with my kids, and also got a little bit back into longboarding. And then I also spent time working up content for a new side channel on here called Undulations ASMR. Now, maybe you're familiar with other ASMR channels on YouTube, so you know what that's about. If you're not, you can think of it as sort of a close-up and intimate type of hands-on field recording, participatory field recording, and it's meant to give kind of a nice psychological, biological response that relaxes people and maybe helps them go to sleep. Now, you know, why that? I mentioned in a community post, my background is in science and in some ways materials science. So a lot of times I'm interested in material properties, and particularly in the last 5 or 10 years, how they relate to sound. And so it's kind of a perfect fit for me to be able to go and do some things that might not be that entertaining for this channel. This channel, I do talk a lot. On the ASMR channel, I don't really have any plans to talk over there. Maybe I'll get to that at some point, but it's mostly going to be sort of close-up demos of sounds and a little bit of synthy type stuff. So I'm hoping for some cross-pollenization of the two channels, some synergy where that take some synthy type things over there to enhance the sounds. And then I've already noticed that a lot of the stuff I do in the ASMR sort of venue, that samples from that sound like they would go well in some music. So I've already been trying to merge some things together. This is like some MicroBrute and tapping on a thing that I put together, kind of like the way it sounded. So I'll put a link to the Undulations ASMR channel down in the video description. I hope you go check that out. But now let's take a look at some Kastle patching. So I'm going to try and keep this part of the video a little bit short, and I'm going to assume that you're familiar with the Kastle drum and the Kastle 1.5 synth. And it's really just talking about a sort of a, I guess, special patch that I made for just a 1-minute clip on Instagram. That's the end result of all of this. It's just 1 minute of music. But it started in kind of a silly way, ridiculous way. My shelf was getting a little bit cramped upstairs, and I had these two synths on it. And I thought, well, I'll just make a little bit of room by stacking them. And it's just not very stable if you stack them like that. So I stacked them like this, and I'm not going to let go of it, but, well, maybe I will. There we go. Ta-da. But I think I maybe put a piece of double-sided tape there so they wouldn't just get bounced off or whatever. And it maybe sat like that for a couple of days, and then I started to think about, well, that would be an interesting way to patch these two devices. And the thing that really sort of like pushed me to do it was that I thought some about how that it made a certain sense, because you've got on the right hand side of both of these, you've got the LFO sort of output type stuff, so signals out, and then on the left hand side you've got more of the modulation inputs. And so that just means that when you put them face to face like that, that you've got the, say, the outputs of the drum going straight into the main inputs of the 1.5, and then the outputs from the 1.5 going into the inputs on the drum. So there's a certain logic to it. From there, it became sort of a, I don't know, kind of an art project, in the sense of what did I want it to really look like. And I wanted it to be sort of as minimal as possible. So my first thought was that I would just have it sit like that and have the patch cables, but then I thought, well, they would look kind of tangled, and it wouldn't really have the right impact of what I was going for. And so then I had thoughts about using like tubes, basically straws on the four corners, to have it lifted up, and so that then the patch cables could straighten. I kind of was gonna do that, and but I couldn't really find the right straws or tubes or whatnot. And so then I had this thought, like, what if I just used the patch cables themselves to provide the support between the two devices, and didn't have them touch all the way, had it basically sort of levitate, held in the air. So the way it was set up, it was the drum on the bottom and the Kastle synth on the top. So to do that, I made some very specific little patch cables that look like this. Now, when I say it was more of an art project, sort of going for a visual type of presentation of it, what it was that I didn't want to have any sort of cable coming out from the top. I just wanted the synth part to be supported by the patches, and that was it. So the task eventually became trying to figure out how to do things like ground them together and get the signal out from the 1.5 and somehow have it come out of the outputs, the audio outputs of the drum on the bottom. And took a little while to sort of think that through. I'll put details about the patch in the description, but basically I decided that I would have some little self patches, which you can see in this picture. And so 6 of those little self patches, 3 on the drum, 3 on the 1.5, they give sort of patch support to the main ones. I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah, so 7 of the vertical patches that do the holding up, and kind of had to think of, well, they need to be spread out so that it doesn't like tip over or whatever. And I also had to think some about what the right gauge of wire would be. It had to be small enough to be able to fit into the sockets on the Kastle, and yet big enough to be able to be sort of a rigid support and not collapse under the weight of the 1.5, especially with batteries in it. And honestly, it was a little bit of a bear to try and get all of that together. I had them all on the drum and then gradually just sort of fed the whole thing into the 1.5. Not really all at once, sort of eased it on. But anyway, I'm gotten ahead of myself a little bit. Once I figured out how I was going to do the patching, I used regular cables side by side to just do normal patching, but with the future in mind, that it would be only these directly across patches. And then that gave me the ability to easily sort of try to tune up something that I like the sound of, put it together, and I left the 1.5 on actually for the video shot, and started, as you'll see, with the Kastle drum off. And we're going to talk about that after you watch this shot, and check it out, see what you think. the first thing I want to say about that is that it's not the most musical thing in the world. I think that I kind of wanted to have sort of an alien type of sound where because of the way that I've got the patching, I have one of the castles on one channel and the other castle on the other channel. And so that automatically sort of makes it a little bit different, but then I want it to be almost sort of like a dialogue between the two. And thought it turned out pretty nice. It's a strange sounding thing that emphasizes sort of the strange configuration of it. So I was happy with that, but one of the main things that I want to say for people that have castles and do this type of thing, and big caveat emptor up front, I don't think anything that I'm going to say is bad for your castles. I just don't think that Kastle instruments would allow you to hook things up, forget to have one of them on, and that it would do some sort of damage. So I don't think that it would. But those noises that you get at the very beginning, where I've got the 1.5 on, but the Kastle drum is off, but then the sound is coming out. You'll just have to look at the patch notes to see how the sound is configured. It's coming out through the I/O port. But this is basically just having a turned off Kastle connected to a turned on Kastle that gives some sounds that reminds me of the Landscape FM stereo fields sounds. And that's something that costs a ton of money compared to what these guys cost. And I never realized that maybe by just having one of them turned off, you could get this whole new range of sounds. So there's one thing I hope people get out of this video. It's that maybe there's some new sounds, new to me at least, that can be obtained by having, say, the drum turned off and the Kastle synth on. Now, and who knows about the reverse? I haven't tried that. Maybe I will. But anyway, thanks a lot for checking out this video, and hope you're all doing well. I'm going to be back on here hopefully soon, and some other stuff on the other channel, the ASMR channel. So keep an eye out for all of it, and thanks a lot for watching.